I think there's a difference between when I started writing and when I recognized it as an outlet for me. I started writing essentially short stories when I was a kid. I go back and look at some of that stuff and think, wow, like the writing was on the wall, like literally. Of course I was born to be a writer, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it while I was in the military. It wasn't until I got out and started a business, at that point I thought like, I'm going to do the entrepreneur thing, right? Thought I wanted to be a business owner. Well, when you start a business, okay, you need a blog now, right? Like it's like marketing 101, start a blog. And so I started a few things like that and quickly found out within about a year of doing that, I like this writing thing, this storytelling thing a lot more than I do messing around in QuickBooks and trying to be this entrepreneur. So it was kind of a gradual process for me to where I realized, being a storyteller is my actual true passion, and that's what I need to pursue. But that was a long journey from when I first started writing stories. So I think when it comes to finding your voice, that's not something that just happens one day. That happens through repetition, writing a lot, figuring out what your style is, your voice is. It's not a conscious thing that you're doing. It just happens. And one day you realize, people recognize my pieces as this is a Marty story, or because I've got that distinct voice, or with any writer, right? So I think that's where the voice comes from. But, probably the time that I realized that I was starting to, that I had a style was after I really started doing more journalistic pieces, narrative journalism at Task and Purpose, and working with an editor there. And that was what really refined me a little bit and led to me having that style and that voice that I use in every piece that I write now. Yeah, I think when it comes to translating your voice and personality to the page, one, you need the right, you need to know when to do that, right? Not every piece needs you to be so involved in it. For the stuff that you are putting a lot of your voice and personality into, though, it's just being honest with yourself and trying to just have an accurate reflection. You need to be good at looking in the mirror. You need an accurate reflection of yourself translating to the page. And again, I think that's something that comes with repetition and being honest with yourself about who you are. You need to be honest with yourself on just the person you are and how that fits into the world. And that will translate to the page. But that energy, though, and who I am, I think a lot of that just comes from passion for what I do. I love being a storyteller. I love telling stories. I love writing. I love taking photos. I love making films, videos. Like, I love what I do. And fortunately, what I do at Coffee or Die magazine, I have the venue to fully explore that, to fully pursue that. And I consider myself just one of the luckiest guys in the world to be able to do that, to have almost a limitless amount of opportunity to tell stories. And so it's hard not to be excited about that. It's hard not to wake up in the morning, and not that I don't have days that I don't feel like writing or things like that. Of course everybody does, right? But it's hard not to be passionate and have energy when you realize there are so many other writers. And I was that writer at one time where I just need somebody to take a chance on me. I need a venue to tell a story. And the fact that I've got that now, it's like I can't squander that by being in a bad mood or not giving 110% with everything that I do. I don't know very many successful people who aren't passionate about what they do. I'm sure they exist. I just don't know them. Everybody, does LeBron James like basketball? I fucking hope so. Did Beethoven like music? Not that I'm putting myself in that category with those people. Does Evan Hafer like coffee? Yeah, I don't know too many people who are successful outside of just, I don't mean successful in, hey, I've got a job and I pay the bills and I put food on the table. I mean successful in that you are recognized for what you do. You are in that, say, top 10% of your profession or whatever. I don't think I'm there yet per se, but I know I'm not going to get there if I'm not passionate about what I do, if I don't love what I do. If you don't love what you do, you might need to find something else to do. That being said, it's an incredible privilege to be able to do what you love for a profession. My dad turned wrenches for a living. I don't think he loved it, but it was a means for him to put food on the table, right? I feel very privileged to be in a position to do what I love for a living. And again, you can't squander that by not being, not recognizing how lucky you are and being passionate about that and bringing everything that you can to the table every single day. I think the thing that separates the people that haven't made it yet and the people who have made it is work ethic. At the end of the day, you can be as passionate as you want, as in love with the craft as you want, and talk about how you're in love. You can sit here and talk all day about, oh, I love books and I love writing and I love film and I love all. Yeah, people can love a lot of things, but then when it comes to time to put in the work and sitting down and actually doing it, and then going through the heartbreak of rejections and going through the heartbreak of revisions, through the long nights, through the arguments with your spouse or your partner or whoever about how much time you're dedicating, and all the things that come with trying to reach a high level, there's an incredible amount of sacrifice and hard work that is required. Again, looking at anybody else who's successful in the profession, professional athletes or successful business people, but any of those other things, musicians, they sacrifice and work. It doesn't come on accident. It doesn't come from an hour or two a day. It doesn't come from, I'm going to write on weekends when I have time. It comes from I am putting all my eggs in one basket, and maybe I'll have to move into a van, but I'm going to fucking do this, and that's where I think that work ethic comes in. I think I have a really cool job and I love what I do, but I'm putting in 50, 60, 70 hours a week. I mean, even just leading up to sitting down with you right now, it's like I did 10 days on the road. I had 2 nights out of those 10 days where I got 1 hour of sleep. I don't think I got more than 8 on any given night. There wasn't a lot of sleeping in that happens when you are trying to achieve at the highest levels. I think that the most interesting stories are informed by reality, but aren't necessarily a documentary representation of reality. But I think that you have to live life. You have to have life events and real emotions and real interactions inform what you're doing when you're telling stories. And that's whether you're writing a piece of journalism, like narrative journalism, or you're writing fiction, or any venue that you do. It's got to be based in reality, because reality is what people identify with. If people can't identify or feel something with your work, they're not likely to finish it or read the whole thing. They're certainly not likely to tell their friends and family about it, which is really what you need, right? You need that word of mouth buzz if you want to do this professionally. And that's hard to achieve if you're not basing it in real emotions and real themes that people either consciously or subconsciously identify with. And that's why you see a lot of recurring themes in books, movies of, true crime and murder, love, the things like the bromance, these things that kind of you see as occurring over and over again. War, right? War is a popular topic because there's so many people around the world who have been impacted by war, either as a participant or an innocent bystander, or lost a loved one. So many people can identify with the emotions of war. That's why so many war movies are made and war books are sold and on the bestseller lists, because people can identify with it. Same with love and romance. Everybody has either fallen in love or had their heart broken, right? Like it's so you have to, and on that same note, if you try to write about one of those themes and it's not based in reality, because so many people have those experiences, they can immediately tell if it's not real, if it's not informed by reality. They immediately lose interest because they're like, that's not how that works. They know in their own head, that's not how that works. Whereas when you write and you convey a scene or a story in a way that is identifiable for so many people, that is that's when special stuff happens. The most popular pieces that I've ever written, most popular things that I've ever done, are ones that have themes that people can identify with. Yeah, I think the biggest influences on my writing, I don't think there's any one source. There's certainly writers that I look up to, but don't necessarily inform my writing. I just admire them because of the life that they lived or what they achieved, or things like that. I think it's hard for me to point to one thing that informs me. It is life experience. I think that my experience in the military and war informs me the same way that my experiences in high school, getting into trouble losing my father, birth of a child, marriage, all these different things that we experience. It's like you have to be an observer of life And so I don't think that there's one book or one writer or one movie or anything like that that really affects the way that I approach my job. That all being said, there are certainly people that I've tried to emulate in certain things. Anthony Bourdain is that's kind of a cliche one to say, right? But I really admire his voice and the lens through which he viewed life and the world. So he's one that was a huge influence. As far as, what I do on the filmmaking side, when I first got started, I was looking at vloggers, particularly Casey Neistat was one, because he put out a video a day for years. That's shooting and editing every single day. When you talk about putting in the reps, he's the quintessential poster boy for work ethic and putting in the fucking reps, and so when I look at a guy like that, it's not necessarily that I want to emulate his video style, but I want to emulate his work ethic 100%. Waking up every single day ready to go do it. Out of those days, there were days where he did not want to make a video, that he was over it, but he still did it. And I think that's something that's very influential for me. So those are a couple of names that kind of pop out there. There's other writers. There's people that, man, they write the perfect sentence or the perfect opening line of a book or a chapter, or that their reporting was so detailed and thorough, but still woven into a cohesive story. There's so many people like that. They all kind of come together for me, along with my own life experiences and my own research on stuff. And it creates a picture in my head of how I should be approaching things and how I should write, in many cases, standards that I should be trying to live up to. So recommendations for books, there's, for other writers, I would have to say, read screenwriting books, even if you don't want to be a screenwriter, because it helps you understand story structure, scene breakdown, it's all stories, right? Screenwriters have to use an incredible amount of brevity. They've only got 120 pages to work with for a feature, 60 for a pilot, or 30 in some cases, right? And so you have to fit a compelling story into that. You have to be sparse with your descriptions, but they have to pack a punch. So screenwriting books, specifically Sid Field, wrote a great one. I would recommend that to anybody, regardless of what kind of writing, whether you're a journalist, a screenwriter, a poet, a fiction writer, nonfiction, anything. I think that's a good baseline to have. I think Storycraft is a great book. Hero with a Thousand Faces. There's, I really like, particularly what I do as a reporter. There's a collection of dispatches that Ernie Pyle did in World War II, where he really, again, when you talk about people who write things that are identifiable for a lot of people, he wrote in a way and was famous for writing about the everyday person who found themselves in war, and conveying the emotions of war in a very simple way. And I think that's really powerful. And I think that there's probably other things that I'm forgetting right now, but I definitely read a screenwriting book, read a story book. There's a couple of different really good ones out there. Stephen King's On Writing, I think is a great, just, hey, here's a normal everyday guy with problems that a lot of people have, from alcoholism to drug addiction to just shit that goes on, rejections, having to build up. That's a great one to read. Stephen Pressfield's Art of War. It's kind of a rah-rah, like pick yourself up, quit being a piece of shit. But again, it's, be honest with yourself. It's kind of helpful to hear that every once in a while. Like, I don't think I need somebody to be my cheerleader, but sometimes it's good to read something that's like, oh yeah, time to get up and get to work. So those are all good. And I think it just depends on where you're at in your career. But if you're starting out, read a screenwriting book, read a story book, understand story structure, find some examples to emulate, and then put in the reps so that you can develop your own style. I think if you're a veteran who knows how to put a sentence together, if you know that it starts with a capital letter and ends with a period, you have a moral responsibility to write or to tell stories, whether that's through different mediums, whether it's poetry, prose, through the lens of a camera, whatever. You have a moral responsibility to tell your stories. The only reason we know about many of the people that influenced us to join the military in the first place, World War II veterans, Korea, Vietnam, Civil War, the Spartans at Thermopylae, and everybody in between, is because somebody wrote down their experiences. And we need that. We need the GWAT generation to be represented. And whether that's the next war in 5 years or the next war in 500 years, people need to know about the lessons that you've experienced, not just in war, but your experience as a veteran, as a human, because you've got a unique perspective as somebody who's experienced the most extreme aspects of humanity. So you have a moral responsibility to write this stuff down. You don't need to share it with everybody. Maybe it's just something you tuck away into a drawer or save in the ether of your external hard drive somewhere. But at some point, somebody, your family or somebody else is going to find that, and it's going to be useful at some point. Or maybe you pursue this professionally, but either way, write down your experiences, write down stories. It's good for you. It's good for all of us. It's like broccoli, right? Like, and sometimes it sucks, but it's good. You should do it. You have a moral responsibility to write, to tell stories.